right, so in our video today, we're going to start with on the posterior side of the body and the bony landmarks. And some of these we already know from other chapters, right? Because obviously you have the scapula, right? So you have that medial border or the vertebral border and the inferior angle here. So you can use that as a landmark, and we'll use that later to find specific vertebrae. And then you also have down at the hips, right? Remember, you go to the soft space here and you push down, and that's where you're going to get that iliac crest, right? And then you're going to follow over to the PSIS, which is going to be those back dimples, right? So those are good landmarks to get to where you're going to start for certain things. And of course, on the back, you also have the spinous processes on the vertebrae, and that's just the bump in the middle. And on her, you can see like where her spine runs, right? So just right down the middle. So you find that, and then the transverse process, you're not normally going to feel the transverse process. Now you can get to it up here at the neck, like near the ear, like just below, say, the masseter process there on the head. But for the most part, for what we will use it for landmarks, is you find that spinous process, and then you know on each side of the spinous process, the transverse process is there. You kind of take it on faith. You don't need to dig in there necessarily to find it. If someone's pretty thin, then you may be able to get to it, but for the most part, you're just going to use that as it's there. The other thing you have on the posterior side, obviously, are the ribs, because the ribs are going to come over to attach at the vertebral surface. You should know where the ribs are, right? It's pretty straightforward. The one to point out specifically for us is that 12th rib, right? So kind of like when we found the iliac crest, where we go to the kind of soft space on everybody and push down for the 12th rib, you're gonna find that soft space and you're gonna push up. And we should be able to feel it. So it's about this long on most people, right? So we're gonna use that as a landmark, so it's gonna be right in there. And then we're going to line that up with the 12th vertebrae. So while we're back here, we'll go ahead and do that. So we have a couple of vertebrae that are easy to find. If she was sitting up, we'd have her look down to get C7. It's going to be basically there at the base of the neck. So there's going to be two that stick out. The top one's C7. The next one is T1, right? So they're going to stick out there. Now you can also get to T2 by going to the superior angle. Remember, that's kind of tucked into the trap, right? So it's kind of hard to get to. So it's going to come across there. T7. So you come to that inferior angle and come straight across, right? And that's where T7 is located. Now I know some people like to find the inferior angle, so on her, again, it's kind of prominent, but on some people, it's harder to get to. So you use that trick where you have them put their hand on their back like this and see, wow, hers really pops up, right? So you can see it pop up like that. And if it doesn't pop up on somebody, if you push their elbow down, then it'll pop up more for you. But if you use that trick on certain people, that it'll shift up a little bit, right? So that instead of that angle staying kind of where it is, it'll shift up some. So you want to find it, keep your finger on it, and then put the arm back down, and then make sure you follow over from there so you don't end up a vertebrae or too high. So that's how we're going to find that one. And then T12, like I said a minute ago, you're going to find that last rib. So we're going to go to that soft space, and we're going to find where it is there, walk our way over. So T12 is going to be right in there. And then for L4, you're going to find the iliac crest, and we're going to come across from the iliac crest, and L4 is going to be right there. So that's our bony landmarks on the posterior side. On the anterior side, really you have the ribs and you have the sternum. So those shouldn't be too hard for anybody to find. Xiphoid process is just the bottom of the sternum, and you have the manubrium and the jugular notch at the top. So actually we'll have Izzy, do you mind rolling over? So her jugular notch, so hers sticks out really well, right? So it's really easy. And of course you have the clavicles, right, coming across. So you have that SC joint on each side, and you have the jugular notch right here in the middle. So the manubrium's that top part. Her xiphoid process is going to be, if you just follow her ribs up, it's going to be right there at the top, kind of where they come together. And then the other landmark that we'll use on the front to find things is going to be your ASIS. So that's going to be where that hip sticks out there on the front, that bump that you can feel there on the front. So pretty easy. So that's our bony landmarks.